With Congress set to adjourn in 2 weeks, time is running out to approve a second coronavirus stimulus package. And the pressure on lawmakers to compromise is on. Democrats have cut their demands for a whopping $2 trillion stimulus measure by more than half, in hopes of breaking a logjam and delivering much-sought economic aid as the current congressional session speeds to a close. The announcement is apparently aimed at Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who so far has been unwilling to budge after his $550 billion Senate plan failed twice. This week, a bipartisan group of lawmakers told congressional leaders to get something done.
We're not blaming anybody for why they haven't come to an agreement. It wasn't enough, it was too much, whatever. We know what's necessary right now in a timely fashion.
I happen to be a deficit hawk. I don't like borrowing money. But the time to borrow money, maybe the only time to borrow money is when there's a crisis, and this is a crisis.
Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and Fed Chairman Powell have also urged Congress to pass another stimulus, with Powell warning that without more help, parts of the economy could be lost. But if the stimulus package is scaled down, that makes the chances for another $1,200 stimulus check for many Americans less likely. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court today ordered a lower federal court to re-examine California's coronavirus lockdown restrictions on indoor worship. While it kept the restrictions in place, it struck down a ruling against the Pasadena-based Harvest Rock Church and the 160-church Harvest International Ministry. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Dale. Well, joining us now is Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, it's always great to have you. Nearly a third of small businesses in New Jersey are closing their doors once again ahead of another expected potential spike in cases. How are stores, owners, and their employees who've already been battered expected to survive?
Well, I think the outlook is quite discouraging, John, because here we are 37 weeks into the economic downturn that's related to the pandemic. And I don't think many people had on their would-be bingo card this year that we'd be doing this long and the pandemic could still be raging out of control. And so there's an economic cost to that. We know there's light at the end of the tunnel. That is the availability of safe and effective vaccines. And yes, some people will begin to get those soon. But what about the broader part of the population? So we're still making our way through that tunnel. And in the meantime, more people will lose their jobs and the unemployment rate will not move substantially lower until we get to that stage.
The number of people looking for unemployment benefits dropped this week, but it is still historically high. Is the economy on the right track, Mark?
Well, that's a question that probably has more to do with the individual's own situation in a time when we really have sort of this Dickensian best of times, worst of times, have and have not economy. But when we have an unemployment rate that is basically twice the level that we saw earlier this year, I don't think anyone's going to be checking a box off and saying that this is the destination we want to be at. So no, when we have 1 million new jobless claims in a given week between the traditional programs administered by states and the pandemic unemployment assistance program, that's on par with the worst of what we saw during the Great Recession.
Mark, you alluded to this earlier in the segment. Federal officials have outlined a major rollout of COVID vaccines over the next several months. How would that potentially affect the economy?
I think eventually, John, we're going to have a strong economy in the United States. Think about the fact that everyone who has been avoiding certain activities over a period of time, they're going to want to get back to that level of activity. And so it's everything from more people getting on airplanes, more people venturing to live sports and entertainment venues, and even just shopping at some of the venues, brick and mortar destinations that they're avoiding now. We've seen this holiday shopping season brought forward, people doing their shopping earlier, but also shopping less frequently, obviously shopping more online. And we won't get back to the exact situation that we were before because a lot of things will have changed, some for the better, but we will make some progress. It's just a matter of time.
All right. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate.com. We always appreciate your insights. Thank you, Mark.